Hi there, and welcome to yet another episode of the Beyond Threats podcast by Bleckmann. As always, I'm your host, Erik Janssen Steenberg, and we will again be taking a deep dive in what is developing in fashion and lifestyle supply chain. And today's deep dive will be all about sustainability legislation, what is developing, what is coming for us, and the innovation needed to adhere to it. Especially for this purpose, I am joined today by Jeanet van der Stoel, sector lead textile and apparel. So that's a nice business card at GS1 in the Netherlands. And my other guest, you've already recognized him, is Ron Thijssen, Bleckmann's very own CSR manager. And I'm very happy to have you guys.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. So today we're looking at the topic around the digital product passport, the DPP. Well, I have a lot of questions. I need to learn a lot more about what that is all about. But let's start off by having you briefly introduce yourself, what your role is, and why you were at the table discussing this topic.
Thank you, Erik. So indeed, my name is Jeanet van der Stoel. I'm the sector lead textile and apparel at GS1 Netherlands. For 50 years, GS1 Netherlands is there, and GS1 gives products a universal language, so businesses can identify, track, and share information about these products anywhere in the world. And how do we do this? We are a neutral and not-for-profit organization. We work with various industries, from consumer safety towards the retailers. And I work for the textile and apparel industry. And in this industry, the GTIN is mostly known, also known as the EAN. GTIN stands for Global Trade Item Number, and this is for product identification. We strive to provide access to reliable data for every product within a single scan, and therefore we use these global standards.
I'm sure we had the right person at the table. Thank you. Ron, how about you?
Thank you. As said, my name is Ron. I work now 15 years for Bleckmann, and the last 6 years I'm leading or heading the organization on corporate social responsibility. In short, it's sustainability all around.
Yeah.
And of course, upcoming legislation under the EPR, there are a lot of different regulations, and one of them is the digital product passport. So let's talk.
Is that easy?
Yeah.
So indeed, let's immediately start the deep dive. So DPP, truly a buzzword lately. What does it stand for? And what is it that the brands and people listening need to understand about it and prepare to become compliant?
Yeah, so if we talk about the digital product passport for the textile industry, everyone knows a label that's attached to your garment, and you see their product composition and where it's been produced. While digital product passport actually has way more information towards it. You can scan it digitally, and you get access to digital information from where it's been produced, how you can take care of it, and in the end, how you can recycle it. So it's a digital record. From the European Union, it will become mandatory under the ESPR, the Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulations, which falls under the Green Deal.
Obviously. And what are the standards that a brand need for the DPP?
Yeah, from GS1, we have 3 standards that can comply towards the digital product passport. That's the GTIN that I mentioned in my introduction, the Global Trade Item Number. And that's a number that's now on the barcode, but it will also be on the QR code. So on your label, it will be physically attached to the label. You can scan it, and it gets access to the product, and everyone knows a QR code that you can scan and it links to a product page. But this QR code, powered by GS1 with the digital link, it links to various link sources, meaning you can scan one QR code which is attached to the GTIN. You can scan it and it can link to the product page. You can also scan it at checkout, and you can also add it to your product in your care label, and it has access to the digital product passport. And the last standard will be the GLN, also called as the global location number.
Yes.
And this is a number that you can add to your supply chain. It can be either a legal entity or a production facility. And it is like the similar number as the GTIN, but then it's for locations, simply said.
Yeah, and it sounds like much more a product label on steroids, so to speak, for a simple consumer that I am, and probably also for some of our listeners. But I know that you have been working on this for quite some time now, and you know the full extent of the impact to brands and eventually to consumers. Can you give somewhat of a insider's view on the practical examples that you already have? What do they entail? What is needed for it? How do they work, etc.? So that the listeners can get a good feel of what is coming for them actually.
Yeah. So the DPP most likely will be mandatory for now for all the products.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have been researching a QR code with the digital product passport on socks. And we have various examples, but to explain the sock one, in 2024, I've been visiting the factory for socks in Pakistan. And a sock doesn't contain a label. So how can you add a QR code to the sock,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah.
So the scope of the project was that we would set up a digital product passport together with a solution provider based in Pakistan, because that's commonly mistaken. GS1 is not a solution provider, but we are a standardized body.
Yeah.
And the scope of the pilot was to see, okay, how can you add the physical identifier, the QR code, to the sock? We did some testings with a sew-in QR code, heat transfer, and then also knitted QR code. The knitted one and the heat transfer, they were able to be attached to the sock, but in the end, due to rubbing, it wasn't scannable anymore. So they went with the woven label.
Yeah.
And the second part was to add the GLN towards all the production facilities. So it was a vertically integrated supply chain from manufacturing, dyeing, spinning. So to all the steps, there was a GLN attached to the location. And then finally, the digital product passport was produced, and this was together with the local solution provider and based on the GS1 standards. So the socks were attached with a GTIN and then linked with the digital link from the QR code. So this shows that you can make a digital product passport based and supported with the GS1 standard.
Yeah. And it was knitted on the inside, or?
So in the end, they went with a woven label on the outside of the sock, but in the end, it's still visible. And then there's also the question: you have two socks, a left one and a right one.
Oh yeah, of course.
How to deal with this? So it's just an example, and there are many examples in the industry where you can see on how to already start with a digital product passport.
Right. So Ron, from your perspective as the single source of truth within Bleckmann, why do you think that this high quality standardized data is becoming somewhat of a mission for logistics service suppliers like ourselves, but also our brands, the fashion brands themselves in the omni-channel environment that we operate in?
First of all, it's mandatory. It's a regulation. Companies have to adhere to creating and using the DPP. That's first. Second, it's all within the Green Deal, the umbrella law, and that is all about transparency.
Yeah,
and that's what the DPP is all about. It's like a digital manual. It says everything about the product itself, as Jeanet clearly explains, where it comes from, where it has been, how to take care of it, how to recycle it, how to get the end of life, how can you recycle it, and all that information really is a necessity, because we're all about becoming more circular.
Sure.
So our clients do really need to have to put all that information in that label. So where do we come into place? At this moment, at the first stage, it's not really a role for us, because we don't own the products. We don't create the products.
No.
But we do have a renewal workshop where we clean, we repair, we refurbish items. And as soon as you take part of that exercise, then you have to put or add data into the DPP, so the consumer at the end can see where it has it been repaired, etc.
Right. So that means that we have a distinct role to play in the overall scheme of things.
Yes.
And it isn't something beyond the horizon in manufacturing.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the main challenges that companies like us and again, of course, our brands can be facing when it comes to data accuracy across that whole system of cogs working together?
No, that's exactly what you just mentioned. It's quality of data. Data at all and quality of data. This is a legislation in the European Union, but we are just a relatively small part of the world. And we really have to explain to the production facilities, which are mainly outside of the European Union, we have to explain them that we don't not only need the data, but also why we need the data. And the quality of the data. So that's going to be quite a challenge.
I also mentioned the legislation is in the European Union, but the real impact actually happens in the production facilities.
Yeah, of course.
That's where you need to gather the information and the data. I always mention the word interoperability because interoperability means that we are going to use one language that we're going to speak across the systems. To explain it, we have all the different languages in the world. It would be way more efficient if we talk in one language. And that same thing applies for the textile industry because we have so many different production facilities, different tiers where the product came from. And you have your internal system, could be like an ERP, PIM, PLM system, and then you require the data from your supply chain partners. And how can we speak one language so it will be way more easy to collect and share the data across the systems?
And when you were in Pakistan and other countries, have you seen a certain interest from that manufacturing side of things, or even an eagerness to understand why we are asking this, or why you were asking this? Because the overall impact for them, if they don't comply with DPP directives, they're in trouble.
Yeah, so it depends on the tier also in the supply chain. What you see in the industry is tier 1, tier 2, you have the data, but it also depends on the size of the companies. But if you go further down the chain, it's sometimes more difficult to collect the data. And therefore, we need a harmonized systems. We can share the data in the same way. And that's also what we saw from the manufacturers. An example is certifications. They have to comply with all of the different certifications. There's many steps to take for this industry.
What do you think about the right timing for the DPP to be looked into by the brands, by the manufacturers, etc.? And of course, you're going to say today. Because there's no day like today. But is there also a competitive advantage when brands do that? Or is there a certain run-up period until you can actually be compliant?
It's a good question. Like the delegated acts aren't there yet here in 2026, but it will come. So all the brands in the textile industry know it's coming up. So how can they already get started? And what could be also their competitive advantage, for example? And it all starts with the collection of the data to look into your own systems. Which data do you already have? We've made like a 5-step guideline on how to get started with the digital product passport. And step 1 would be, how to get started. So for example, the QR code powered by GS1 with the digital link, you can use it for the digital product passport, but you can also use it on checkout. And you can also use it for your loyalty programs, the digital product passport. So what's beyond that? Then
so you're seeing also opportunities in that?
Definitely. And then it's like, who is in your digital product passport team? And then it really starts with what is the data that's already in your system? What is the data that you possibly need to collect? With which system do you want to work? Do you want to set up a digital product passport yourself or work with a solution provider? And then you start with a pilot, like my example, but in the end, it's all about scalability. So how do you scale up the digital product passports for all your garments in the textile industry?
Yeah, and when you see the pressure mounting, but also the interest in becoming as sustainable as possible at the brands and buying in sustainable products from the consumers, of course. Do you see that this global standards help the companies to stay compliant, but not give too much of their agileness and competitiveness up for it?
Yeah, definitely it helps with this efficiency in the supply chain, but also with trust for consumers. And I would say a good example is 50 years ago, Mr. Albert Heijn. Everyone in the Netherlands knows him. He came back from the US to the Netherlands and he said, we need to introduce this barcode. And from there on, we're 50 years later. You see, it's like we're in 40,000 companies who now use the standards
Well,
of
it's
GS1.
everywhere.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it's standardized and that's the efficiency. And that's really why GS1 is very powerful. We're a worldwide organization, and it just helps the industry. We are there to support the industry from a neutral perspective.
Is that in line with what?
Exactly with the especially the standardization.
Yeah.
Going down the stream of the lifetime of the product. At the end, you really want to know what can I still do with this item, and with the information in this digital product passport in a standardized language.
Sure.
You know exactly what you can and cannot do with the item at the end of life, and that makes it easier and more efficient for companies to start either refurbishing, reusing, recycling it. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely a game changer.
So when asked, looking ahead, what advice would you give or share in terms of motivation for our listeners? They need to start rethinking operational models. They need to start thinking about their data, about their capturing, etc. So what would you say to motivate to get started?
Well, first of all, as said, you have to. It's mandated, so there is no weaseling out. You have to. That's one.
Yeah.
Second, at this moment, well, as Jeanet said, you have a sometimes limited set of data, and that should be your basis. Start with that limited set of data, and then expand. And if you really are an early starter right now, you also have the advantage of the curiosity of the consumer.
Of course.
The consumer really is curious about the items, and he is going to start scanning the codes, and he wants to know more about the items. And if everything is standardized, then he can make a sound decision why not or why to buy an item, because he has all the information he needs and he can get.
And it will likely, trigger more interest in the overall product and the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I definitely agree with you. You cannot jump in the Neo without fixing the basics. So start already with your data, and the digital product passport legislation, it's coming up. So it will be there. Yes, it will be there, but how ready is your organization to start with it? And that will be a first step for me to already look at your internal data and then to start with the pilot and then scale it up.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect from start.
No.
It cannot be. No, and if you want it to be perfect from the start, you're likely not going to start at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Those are great pointers, and yeah, I really think that we've helped our listeners and definitely yours truly by understanding the DPP a lot better and what it will take to successfully implement that. And unfortunately, that's already all that the time that we have for this podcast today. So allow me to thank you very, very much for your input and for being here today.
Thanks.
DPP, we know a bit more about it, but it will also have triggered a wish for more information, maybe some discussions with you guys. Jeanet, how can people reach out to you and potentially talk about working on the solution together?
Yeah, you can access more information on our website, gs1.nl, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. And my name is Jeanet van der Stoel.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ron. Same for you.
Well, people can reach me through our website, www.bleckmann.com. Go to the tab Sustainability, and there you can find my contact details. Just drop an email with your question.
Great. Thank you, guys. And without a doubt, your email is going to be flooded. And for you, the audience, the listeners, the viewers, thank you very much for tuning in today. And without a doubt, like me, you have learned a lot about DPP and all it entails for you as brands, as consumers, and for us as logistics and service providers. Make sure to subscribe to our channels, follow us on our socials so that you stay on top of things and everything that is developing in fashion and lifestyle logistics. Make sure to also tune in the next time for our next podcast. Until then, my name is Erik Janssen Steenberg and see you soon.